So this is the bread and butter of what makes dplyr so useful, is the chaining. Now that I've showed you how to use more than one function, I'm going to show you how to chain them. So in this particular case, and it's going to follow that structure that we talked about earlier. So this would be the function that it will first use the select function and then use this filter function. So it will start with this census data set, and then it's going to dump it into the select function. So set census to these variables that I have listed. Then the result of the select function will then be dumped into the filter function due to this pipe. And then that data set will be subsetted or filtered to values greater than 4.1. So this just showing the code, this just shows the code and what each individual line does. I'm going to go into my R because I did give an example of how this would work. We already showed what this did, but I will run it, show you. This is the output that we saw before. This is the value that changed them. So I'm going to run it and show you that each of these individual pieces of code was actually performed. So if we look at and run column names, only these variables that were brought into our data set, and now you'll see that the minimum value is 4.2, just as we specified here. So that's how you would use it in real life. In my data manipulation, I usually will chain, like, as long as it's simple enough to read, I'll chain 5, 7 of these functions in a row. I'll usually comment above each individual one and what it's doing. But in practice, the great thing about dplyr is that it is easy to read, and so it's similar. They call these different dplyr functions verbs, actually. So they're called dplyr verbs. So we can look at this in sequential order. It's easy to read what's being done here, and it's easy to read what's being done here. Whereas in base R, you have to do a lot of nested functions and things that are much more difficult to read. So this keeps your code fast. It simplifies it since you can chain them together and you don't have to dump into a new data set every time you use them. And it allows you to, it's very, very flexible. But that is what's being done there. And I can are there any questions about the chaining process? It's very, very, very important. So this is how it would be used in this particular case. Okay, great.